Online sellers Jordan Malik, founder of HonestOnlineSelling.com and FBA.Finds.com and JordanMalik.com. Today's January 15th, 2013, and back in late December, I asked you to submit your questions, whatever questions you had about selling on Amazon, selling on eBay, and it's been a good 3 weeks now, almost 3 weeks. So I'm going to answer them for you today. Just a few things before we continue. I'll be talking via YouTube today. This is pre-taped. And we're going to be covering a lot of information in this podcast. I had a good record, about 40 some odd questions total. This is probably going to run about a couple hours. So you can actually skip ahead to segments that you're not interested in if you wish, if you don't want to listen to the whole thing. Below the YouTube video itself, on the YouTube page, there are segments broken out. I have like, say, we'll talk about selling on Amazon fees at, like, say, the 5-minute mark, and you can see that in the description below by clicking on Show More, where it says Show More right below the video. So you can jump ahead different segments if you're not interested in other ones. Many of you participated in my contest, and we have winners that I announced several days ago. I've only heard back from 6 of them. Excuse me, I've only heard back from 2 of them. There's 6 others I haven't heard from, and I only have the usernames of their I Am Report Card profiles. I Am Report Card is a unbiased review site where they post reviews for me. Jonas, Tony T 417, Crystal 8, Beatrice Houston, Sony Bill, and Swift River, I think, are the ones that have not gotten back to me yet to claim their prizes. So if you are one of those, please get in touch with me via I Am Report Card. Log into I Am Report Card, and you should have an email in your inbox from me. For those of you who don't know who I am, you can go to jordanmalik.com. I'm the best-selling author of a couple of books on how to sell on Amazon or how to flip items from eBay to Amazon. Many of you know me as the founder of FBA Finds. I have a free blog with a lot of free information for online sellers on HonestOnlineSelling.com. Make sure you check that out. If you go to IamReportCard.com that I just mentioned earlier and do a search for me, you'll see that I'm credible. I have an A rating at a number of sites. Here's me. Here's one of my e-guides. It's got an A rating. I have an A rating. My Buy Low on eBay, Sell High on Amazon guide has an A rating. FBA Finds has an A rating, etc. These are not mine. My cash printer, bullet cash method, etc. But I have several products that have been reviewed on I Am Report Card. They're all with an A rating with multiple reviews, unbiased reviews from users like you. So again, you can read unbiased reviews of me and my services at this site, IamReportCard.com. I'm not affiliated with them, other than being a subject that's received reviews on the site. Or if you have any questions, you can contact me at jordanmalik@gmail.com. That's my first and last name together, JordanMalik @gmail.com. I received a lot of questions. Many of them, about 90% of them, cover selling on Amazon. We're going to cover selling from Canada, how to source items no matter where you are, taxes for U.S. sellers, some questions about how Amazon handles seller complaints, etc. And we're going to go over, how to make your operations more efficient. If you haven't already, go to HonestOnlineSelling.com and you can subscribe to my blog for free, or subscribe to my newsletter for free. It's packed with a lot of information. I give away a lot of free info. So our first question comes from Bill. We're going to be covering a lot of questions about sourcing in this segment, sourcing products to resell on Amazon. Bill says, I'm curious to know what you think might be the most profitable places to check for after Christmas sales to resell on Amazon. I imagine invariably, yes, Walmart, Target, etc. will have blowouts. But what I like to do with the after the Christmas holidays, I like to snap up Christmas-oriented merchandise. Some of this stuff sells right away because for whatever reason, people buy Christmas-oriented merchandise throughout the year, and you can resell it at a profit on Amazon. But the biggest golden goose, if you would, is buying stuff at 75, 80%, 90% off. The merchandise that's Christmas oriented. Hallmark stores, for instance, will close out a lot of their ornaments. So if you go to a Hallmark store or a store that carries the Hallmark ornaments, look for their character-themed ornaments. Thomas the Train, Star Wars, Hello Kitty, Disney, etc. I like to go to the smaller stores that are not really the big chain stores. I went to a local nursery the other day. Some of the bigger nurseries sell Christmas decor, and they had Department 56 items at 70, I think 70% off. Department 56 items, as you know, they're like the Christmas Village items, etc. The very ornate, detailed ones, the high-end ones. They're meant for displays, and many of them are branded now. So you have Disney Department 56 items, or uh, the names escape me, but they have co-branded ones. Wizard of Oz, I think was another one. So um, I like to purchase those and stow them away for the following year. But you're also right about the Walmarts and the big box stores because they have to clear their shelves for new toy lines coming in, or they're rearranging their shelf space, or the manufacturer like Hasbro, etc. I'm particularly referring to toys here. They order the big box stores to clear out specific inventory. So yes, you can find stuff right now. I suggest you don't wait. Look under every hood. Go to your major retail stores. Some of the big supermarket chains have clearance toy aisles now, and they actually have that year round. Your big lot stores, etc. Great question, Bill. Brian, the internet marketing guy, says, "What's the best sections to go first at a busy library book sale?" Brian, that's a great question. I haven't been to a book sale in about a couple of years, and the problem is that, as many people know, the book sales are getting over inundated with competing sellers who are there for the same reason you are, to buy books. But that said, mostly everybody there is there for books. So I usually go to the DVD section because that's kind of not on their mind right away. Um, I've gone to their VHS tape section to look for new and sealed VHS tapes because many people will drop off donations. Of course, a library is not going to have the new VHS tapes are going to be used with all the library markings, so I avoid those. But many libraries take donations and people just dump off boxes and stuff. And many scouters forget that sealed VHS tapes can command a pretty penny. I don't know if that's because there's plenty of a population that's still using VCRs. And I've picked up VHS tapes that are still sealed at library sales for, it could be an oldies movie that's still brand new. It could be a Disney movie. It could be something as simple as a big screen movie that was released in the past 20 years. And when they're new and sealed, they tend to go for $10 and up. So I'll pay 25 cents to $1, and then they'll sell for $10. So my suggestion is go to your VHS tape section, go to your DVD section, and while everybody's scanning barcodes on books, you could be trying to find books that don't have a barcode, where you have to manually enter the ISBN number. So just because there's 10 other competing sellers there in front of you or with you, scanning books, they're trying to get in and get out as quick as they can. Almost all of them will 9 times out of 10 not manually enter ISBN numbers when there is no barcode. So you kind of need to get a little bit skilled probably in figuring out which books. Obviously, you're not going to be looking for old romance novels. You're going to be looking for, unusual topic books on Korean cooking that doesn't have a barcode, or an unusual book on history or something. Practice makes perfect. Over time, you'll get better at it. Now, Brian also asks, what are the top 3 ways to get overstock or closeout prices from retailers? I'm going to talk a little bit about 3 trusted sources. They're not all of them classify as overstock or closeout, but at least one of them does. And I'm going to go from inexpensive to the most costly. The first one is Skip McGrath. Skip McGrath has been around a lot longer than I have, teaching people how to sell on Amazon and eBay. And he's kind of an expert at finding trusted sources for wholesalers. I don't recommend that you go do a search on Amazon, search on Google, and just start finding any wholesale list and buying it. Skip McGrath has an ebook program that is totally about finding and negotiating and discovering wholesale products that are viable to sell very profitably on Amazon or eBay. And you can get to his ebook by going to this link, bit.ly/skip wholesale. It's bit.ly/skip wholesale. I am an affiliate of that. It's highly recommended though, that, because I've reviewed his books, and Skip always puts out quality information. It's $47. The pros, I've done pros and cons for each one of these three solutions, Brian, that I'm recommended. The pro to Skip's ebooks, including this one on Wholesale, is that his stuff works if you put it to use and you follow him to the T. And he's proven that with his own sourcing. He sources from wholesalers himself. The cons are, this might, for you to be hugely successful in this, Skip, for instance, goes to trade shows, and he will personally talk one-on-one with manufacturers to convince them to let him be their exclusive Amazon seller of products, or he'll be one of several people who they screen to allow selling their products. So not just anybody can just, type a few words and be a retailer for a wholesaler. You have to kind of build a relationship. Skip tells you how to do that, but if you're a shy person, or if you're averse to meeting people in person, might not be for you. The other one that I wanted to introduce you to is folks that I've worked with before and currently work with. They're John Bullard Sr. and John Bullard Jr. They own a company that buys merchandise in bulk, and they essentially sell it in small lots. But they're two very trustworthy guys, and I have rave reviews about their program. And you don't have to pay anything other than the product cost, and you can buy as minimum as $500. All the information about it is at a free webinar we did together. And if you go to bit.ly/FBA, that's FBA in all capitals, product list, you'll see the webinar, and you can sign up to receive their list for free. To see when they get new product, they send you a list, and you can buy minimum $500 in quantity. You can buy out entire lines if you want to. And they'll also process it for you for a really small fee. They'll process the inventory for you and send it to FBA warehouses for a very small fee, which cuts you. You don't have to worry about getting the inventory and stickering it and all that. They take care of all that for you. Two very trustworthy guys. Pros, all the work is done for you. Minimum purchase is $500. The cons are, you might have other sellers competing that are buying the same product. That's really just a fact of life. Okay, gets very expensive if you want to buy out an entire closeout line, and have no competition on Amazon. If you're going to buy out a $500 worth quantity of products, and there's other sellers that are buying the remaining 10,000, yeah, you're going to have competition. So some patience may be required in that regard. Brian, the third way to get closeout or liquidation inventory is liquidationinvestmenttraining.com. This is a site that's a business that's run by Nathan Bailey, who is Jim Cockrum's coaching provider. He provides coaching services for Jim Cockrum's clients. Jim Cockrum he's kind of got like a minority interest in this. He is the backer of the program. And there's a third person who's done the bulk of the legwork. Her name is Linda Tyler, and this is her business model that she's sharing with people that buy into the program. It costs $7,500 for the entry fee, and then for you to be participating actively, that is actively buying closeout products. You're talking about expenditures of buying direct from the manufacturers, $5,000 and up at a time. So it's the cons of this doing this method are very costly. But the pros are you can make a lot of money. You could concentrate on this model only in terms of acquiring product to resell, and you'll be buying large volumes of stuff and making profits continuously. I don't see profit margins of returns on investment of like 200 to 300% until you get very big. I might see somebody who's starting out with this, and I'm one of those people that are starting out. I might get an ROI of say 50 to 75%. The other cons are that you kind of need a go-getter mentality. After you receive the training materials on how to do this effectively, you're going to be making calls to people to offer buying their inventory from them. It's a little different from what you're thinking. I can't disclose too much of it because I signed an NDA. So you have to be unafraid of making phone calls. You have to be okay with some rejection. I've talked to plenty of manufacturers that are not interested in what I have to offer them in terms of getting their inventory. And you have to think completely differently than an Amazon or eBay seller to do this successfully. You kind of have to remove yourself entirely from that mindset because you're in the liquidation business now. You're in the business of providing cash to, excuse me, to manufacturers in and procuring their inventory, and you don't even want to mention the words eBay and Amazon because they're allergic to that. So I hope that answers your question, Brian. Sidra, if I'm pronouncing her name right, she asked me what criteria should we use when targeting books to sell on FBA: price, sales rank, type of book, profit margin, etc. Thank you. Sidra, the answer is all of the above. You could have a book that you find at a library sale that has a sales rank of 2 million, which is considered, a very slow selling book. And it has an Amazon selling price of $20, and your opportunity to purchase it is $1. And thus, that's a huge return on investment. If you sell the book, many sellers would shy away from that book because it's got a sales rank of 2 million. But you also have to then consider how many competing sellers are there. If you're the only seller of the book, or maybe one of two sellers, then it's probably worth you picking up. If you're patient, you can wait 3 to 6 months for it to sell, or a thin possibility of it not selling at all. The profit margin, etc. If the book is selling for 20, and then the price of the book that you're buying is $10, probably not much of a profit margin in there. Type of book, I mean, I generally avoid common cookbooks, the more frequently published common name books from Betty Crocker, etc., that are recent. I'll avoid romance novels. I'll avoid fiction. And I like to concentrate on quirky, small publisher titles, um, books that are about education, science, college textbooks are all good categories to keep an eye out for. Great question, Sidra. Dana asks a great question. Dana asks, do you personally buy and hold merchandise that you know will not move for 6 to 12 months out, i.e. Christmas merchandise? Yes, I do, and I talked about that earlier, particularly Christmas merchandise when you can get it for closeout or any season. Halloween, waiting until your Party City store has their 90% off or 80% off Halloween merchandise clearance sales. Retailers are eager to just move this stuff out. Or do you recommend you're sourcing funds on items that you know will move quickly and give you a faster return on your investment? Dana, I suggest that you do both. Many folks just try to pigeonhole themselves and say, well, I'm only going to buy wholesale, or I'm only going to buy stuff that I find online, or I'm only going to go to thrift stores, or I'm only going to buy from clearance aisles from Walmart and Target, etc. You got to state the goal for everyone that's in this game seriously, I think, is to stay diversified. If anybody's interested, and I forgot to show this at the top of the video, my sales for 2012, if you go to bit.ly/AMZ 2013, that's bit.ly AMZ 2013, you'll see the screenshot of all of my total sales on Amazon for 2012. I did 136,000. Roughly half of this is my profit before sales tax. So my net pre-tax profit is roughly, that would be 65 grand or so, 65 to $68,000. It's working this very part time. It's just me and my wife. We do a total average of maybe 10 hours a week each, sourcing, scouting, packaging things, prepping them for Amazon, FBA, etc. And this is my total sales. So the key to that, and that goes back to your question, is staying diversified. So yes, we do buy merchandise, Christmas-oriented and non-Christmas-oriented items. Will laugh at me, but I'm a big fan of some of the Batman toys that come out. I may buy some Batman-oriented new merchandise that I find on sale or on clearance and hang on to it for a few months until the next movie is released, for instance. And the same thing goes for Christmas merchandise. But we'll also source items at thrift stores um, that could sell well anytime year round for a high profit margin. Or my website, FBA.finds.com, tends to FBA Finds is a place that you can subscribe to that will tell you exactly what to sell on Amazon, and exactly where to find it. I've noticed that a lot of the baby items, um, Disneystore.com may have a sale on some baby items that I'll recommend my members buy, or Toys R Us or Babies R Us will have baby-oriented plates and uh, jumper suits and blankets and bottles, etc., that are on sale or on clearance. And I recommend people buy them and wait for the source store, like the Disney store or the Toys R Us store, to run out before they start selling it on Amazon. Or I'll say just keep your price high and just keep the inventory there at Amazon and don't lower your price, because when it sells out at Disney or it sells out at Toys R Us or wherever the other store is, the only place for somebody to get this particular baby product will be at Amazon, and that's where you can command a higher price. So that is a great question, Dana. Thank you. And Chris Williams asks, what products do you concentrate on during times that are not obvious? He's asking, aside from Christmas-oriented products and Valentine's Day, etc., what do I concentrate on? I really don't do a lot of seasonal stuff minus Christmas or Halloween, Chris. There are other sellers that may have more expertise in that regard. I'm sure that if you are in touch with a wholesaler that has Valentine's Day products and you're buying Valentine's oriented items in December, maybe during Valentine's Day it's gangbusters for you. I don't do it. I just stick with, for the most part, non-seasonal stuff year round. Second question Chris has is liquidation products. Have you tried working with them? If so, what has been your experience? I would love to see what others have done in this area and what they avoid. Great question, Chris. And just earlier in this podcast, if you look at the minute breakdown below, the time minutes below the actual video on the YouTube page, you'll see that I've broken out all the segments right below the video. And you can see how we touched upon liquidation before. Now, Don has a great question. He's basically saying here that when he's out scanning products in stores, he doesn't realize that sometimes a product is restricted until after he buys it and gets home. And is there a way to distinguish products that Amazon has a lock on? In other words, a product that Amazon is currently not letting other sellers sell. The obvious ones, Don, are the ones that you mentioned, the hazardous materials. I'll avoid anything that's got like, flammable sign on it. It's typically an item that you're not going to be able to list on Amazon. Like, obviously, the obvious ones are anything with like a butane film, like you said, a big flame disc for portable grills, some perfume. In terms of the ladies' razors, I guess the good thing about buying products at retail stores is that you bring them home and you discover you can't sell them. You can always return them at most retail establishments. I kind of have a unique scenario where I've cut down on what I call my error rate on items that I cannot sell, because my wife does a lot of the scouting now, and when she's out scouting products, she'll call me with the ones that she's unsure about, and I'll take a look at them as how the item exists on Amazon. So I'll be able to tell her, hey, look at this, has got a 1-star rating out of 5 from customer feedback in terms of people that bought the item, so avoid that. Or I'll be able to say, hey, this looks like this has got something flammable, or there's no button on the Amazon listing that says sell yours here, so then I'll know that hey, we're not going to be able to list this in the first place. But just like anything else, you're going to have a percentage of stuff that is going to leak through in the process. That you, when I say leak, meaning you're going to end up buying some stuff that you won't be able to sell. So you're either going to have to return it. In our case, the thrift stores that don't allow returns will either throw it into a pile for yard sales. I might attempt selling it on eBay, etc. But always make an allotment for yourself mentally or on paper that 1-2% of your sales is going to, or 1-2% of the inventory you procure is going to end up being unsellable, or maybe his maximum is 10%. Kind of comes with the business. That's a great question, Don. Now, I don't have the source of this question, but she says she's got two questions here regarding sourcing. Do thrift stores like Goodwill have a high inventory of great deals like unopened toys, games, video games, etc. after Christmas and the New Year? I don't think there is a pattern. Um, the only way to tell is, sometimes these thrift stores have clothing drives or drives where they collect stuff, but that's hard to figure out. So no, I do not see a set pattern across multiple thrift stores or when they get an influx of merchandise. Maybe I guess one could argue the spring when people are doing spring cleaning, or at the end of the summer when the yard sale season is over up here in the Northeast anyway. People will just they'll stop having yard sales and just be donating stuff. So, but I've never seen a dramatic increase of products at thrift stores or Goodwill stores at a set pattern. So I don't think that's true. I think you'll have days, you'll go into a thrift store one day, there's nothing, you'll go back in the same thrift store 4 days later and they're packed with stuff and the prices are great. Her second question, or his second question, is after Christmas, are games, toys, books, etc., still in high demands, or am I stocking and getting ready for next year? I love the fact that games, toys, and books sell well year round. Of course, games and toys and all merchandise, I think, takes a huge lift, rise in demand during the Christmas season. But, books, especially textbooks that I can accumulate throughout the year, tend to do very well in the fall during the back to school season. Games and toys for me do well year round. The exception is summer oriented games and toys like pool toys, like games that kids use for the pool, or those inflatable outdoor toys that the inflatable slides and water slides, etc. Those do miserable year round minus the summer. So that's an exception, but generally games and toys, yes, as long as they're in a sales rank, say between 0 and 150,000, do very well. Now, Kathy asks, Kathy, your last name begins with E. Kathy says she's talking about Amazon selling products in Amazon FBA, and she's saying junk doesn't sell well even at low prices and causes problem with returns. But Kathy, you're not identifying for me what types of products. I'm assuming you mean you're talking about the low price impulse items by registers, so like little keychains and little flashlights, etc. Yeah, I mean, I guess in general you'd want to avoid those products unless you're able to procure them at closeout prices and sell them at a nice profit. But I think generally you want to avoid that type of thing. Kathy also says sourcing is problematic for me. Stores here don't have good markdowns, and I have very limited time, about 2 hours a week for scouting. Do you advise focusing on clearance items or store exclusives? I'm actually advising that you do both, clearance items and store exclusives, as long as those store exclusives and clearance items are priced like 70% or more below their sticker price. Yes, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Tuesday Morning. They all have great deals. Sometimes you got to keep checking back, Kathy, every week or so. I know Tuesday Morning has some perks program that you can sign up for where you get advance notice or exclusive days to go to a sale where nobody else can buy. We've gotten good buys, plus Target, Walmart, and Meijer, a Midwest discount store. Looking back at my purchases, it's been clearance items and specialty items, but I don't know how to recognize specialty items. I'm not sure what you mean by specialty items. I think you mean store exclusives. I like to buy toys that'll say, like at Walmart or Target or Toys R Us, there'll be a sticker on the toy that says Walmart exclusive or Target exclusive or Toys R Us exclusive, where it's not available anywhere else. It doesn't mean that it's going to sell right away at a big profit. I'll wait for them to go on clearance or sale, 60, 70, 80% off. And I'll kind of expect that it's not going to sell at a nice profit until maybe 3 or 4 months afterwards when everybody else has kind of fallen off the bandwagon. So yes, continue looking for clearance items, store exclusives. Also, I know that you said you've only got about 2 hours a week for scouting. You may want to consider taking a weekend, maybe throwing the family in a car and going a couple hours outside your normal radius and visiting other stores, thrift stores, etc. That's my suggestion, is that you look out geographically. You try to make it a point to go outside your normal geographic region, once or twice a month. Now, Kathy also says that she observed during November, December that FBA items got the buy box unless far more expensive than non-FBA. It looked like FBA was worth about $5 or 5 to 10%. The rest of the year, I didn't see that so much. Have you seen this too? Yes, I think you're correct, Kathy, in that Kathy's basically saying, look, there's a big There's a big difference in price sometimes on FBA. Of course, Amazon will sometimes show FBA items in the buy box, typically a lot more than the non-FBA items because sellers demand it. Sellers are demanding 2-day shipping. And the only way to get 2-day shipping by Amazon is, of course, if the item is fulfilled by Amazon. And yes, November, December, people are in much more urgent mode to buy things. Consumers are in a much more urgent mode. They need stuff right away. So yes, the sellers who are selling items by FBA, the third-party sellers, can command higher prices because buyers are making that much more emphasis on the expediency of delivery. So if you have a toy that all the other third-party merchants are selling for $15 plus $4.99 shipping for a total of $20, as an FBA merchant, you might be able to command $30 total, $29.99 or $39.99 even, because many customers are just not willing to wait to receive an item from a third-party merchant-fulfilled item. They will pay a premium to have it delivered in 2 days. Now I want to move to move on to questions about using FBA in other countries. I have a gentleman from the UK. His name is Peter Haywood. He said, Jordan, I used to sell on Amazon until FBA came along. It seems to be all the labeling, etc., that he's confused with, especially in the UK when all these fancy scanners are not as readily available. He's also asking how much would he have to sell on Amazon to be able to cover his fees, etc. Do I have to sell regularly and send items to FBA regularly? Is it like another mouth to feed? Peter, great question. Here's a few links for you. From what I've read, FBA is available in the UK. I've created a short link for you. If you go to bit.ly/ all capital letters FBA-UK, that'll bring you right to the information page for Amazon sellers in UK that are interested in selling via FBA. You can sell as little or as much as you like. You don't have to be constantly sending an inventory. And I would assume if you're making, I don't know how to translate this in terms of pounds, but if you're making, $5 to $10 profit per book, you'd certainly have more than enough to cover most or all of your fees by selling, say, 10 to 20 books per month. I contacted Nitoscan. They're the same scanning service that I use on my PDA, my personal desktop assistant. Nitoscan is the service that when you scan a barcode on an item, it'll tell you whether or not it's profitable, etc. To tell you how much the item is selling for on Amazon. They do support UK, so you have to get a scanner, subscribe to Nitoscan online, and on your computer, you hook up your PDA to your computer there, and you can download the information just as I do here in the US. You would be doing it specifically for the UK. Now, if you don't have a scanner, presumably there are providers there in the UK that you might be familiar with, or eBay sellers in the UK that have scanners that they will configure for you. Nitoscan will offer you free support to help you do that. But if you don't have equipment, I recommend this fellow who also ships internationally. Here's a redirect to his eBay store here in the US, but he does ship worldwide. If you go to bit.ly/ Jordan recommends, all lowercase, you'll see his listings for PDAs to be used with the Nitoscan service. So good luck, Peter. I hope this helps you. So Coach ETCH says that he lives near the Canadian border, and most of the big box stores in Canada are much closer to me than those in the US. And he wants to know if they have the same barcode, or if they have different barcodes, can they sell the item? Can he sell the item by procuring it in Canada and shipping it to the U.S. fulfillment centers? Yes, you can. Look, the barcode doesn't matter as long as the product's identical. If the product in Canada is identical to the product that's selling on Amazon, same specifications, the box isn't written in French. I mean, as long as everything's in the U.S. on the packaging and it's identical to the item in the US, yes, you can buy the items in Canada because the label that you're placing over them is the Amazon label that's generated for you, and it goes over the existing barcode. So yeah, as long as the item that you're buying in Canada either has the same exact barcode as the US item or the product itself is identical, you can sell it on Amazon. Let's talk a little bit more about Canada. This gentleman's name is Nicholas. He's a French guy located in Montreal, Canada. Hi, Nicholas. And he wants to know, he wants to sell products on Amazon FBA, and you can if you're in Canada. But he raises two good points. Amazon's prepaid UPS shipment only works in the U.S. So what does that mean? So that means if you're in the U.S., you can get all your products shipped to Amazon for them to fulfill, and you get very low discount rates on UPS. The cost is probably 1/10 to 1/5 of what it would otherwise cost for me to ship my products to the local Amazon fulfillment center. There's some exceptions to that, of course. Say if I lived in the same region as an Amazon fulfillment warehouse, I might even be able to just drop the stuff off there. But generally, people ship their stuff to Amazon and they get it at a very subsidized rate here in the U.S. That's not available to Canadian FBA sellers yet. They have to ship their products to FBA, the FBA warehouses in the U.S., but they have to pay the international shipping rate. And that's going to prove to be very costly, but Amazon, I believe, only has a huge interest in partnering with somebody like they did with UPS here in the States. They're probably going to end up partnering with a carrier that's in Canada, or maybe UPS in Canada, etc. And they're going to end up, sooner or later, probably I would say sooner, offering the discounted rates to FBA sellers in Canada for them to ship the products to the U.S. fulfillment centers. There are no FBA warehouses in Canada either. I would suspect that's going to change, where they're going to Amazon is going to have warehouses in Canada, so they're more easily able to absorb items that are provided by FBA sellers in Canada. So, Nicholas, in the meantime, if you want to be selling on FBA, my suggestion is if you can find lighter weight items, and I'm not sure how you would do that now, but if you can find lightweight items that don't cost a lot of money to end up shipping in big parcels to Amazon, you may be able to still profit nicely on those items. So books wouldn't be it, toys wouldn't be it, stuffed animals. One of my items I like to scout for is like new stuffed animals in thrift stores. So Winnie the Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Winnie the Pooh, Donald Duck, etc. Some of these are very lightweight. The Beanie Babies, remember the Beanie Baby sensation? These are still highly sought after. I don't know what you call thrift stores in Canada, but if you have stores that sell used merchandise, look for stores with Beanie Babies and see what they sell for on Amazon. Ship those, and those are lightweight. So I'm sure there are products that you can find in Canada. I've also heard that because there's no Twinkies here available in the U.S., but Twinkies are produced, so the Hostess Twinkies are produced by a separate company and licensed by a different company in Canada, that Canadian FBA merchants are shipping Twinkies to the U.S. FBA warehouses to sell on Amazon, and they're making a killing doing it. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. So I hope that answers your question, Nicholas. Good luck, and I'm sure it's just a matter before time, just a matter of time before Amazon ends up making things a lot easier for sellers in Canada. Talk a little bit about taxes and setting up your business, etc. Shelby writes in and says, taxes, any advice on handling tax? Did you pay for an accountant to get set up, and how much did they charge us for a reference point? I've spoken with sellers in the past who get all freaked out about hiring an accountant. They don't want to do it. It costs too much, etc. I highly recommend that you get a CPA, and I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. But my CPA is here in Long Island, New York. Long Island is one of the most expensive places to live in the nation. I pay $50 an hour for my CPA. Because this business is relatively simple now. I pay her $50 an hour, but she's also managing several other things for me. It's not just selling on Amazon. It's also my PayPal sales. It's also, at one point I had 2 or 3 different business bank accounts, etc. So I'm probably a little more complicated than the rest of you. And it turns out to be, roughly $200 a month total because it's 4 hours of work for her. You're going to find CPAs are over the map in terms of cost. I do recommend that you go to, you try to find a small business CPA, somebody who's already working with small businesses. Before you do anything about structuring a corporation or figuring out sales tax or getting an employee identification number or what they call a reseller tax ID, etc., you really first want to meet with a CPA. If you have any friends that own small businesses, even if they're not e-commerce related, My CPA had very little e-commerce knowledge. I had to do a little bit of educating for her, but this is important. You can't just pass off a book of stuff for all your numbers to a CPA and hope they figure it out. You're going to have to be working with them. This is a true business. Selling on Amazon is not a hobby. It's a true business. You're going to have to sit down with them and show them how your numbers work, and how your revenue comes in, and what your Amazon sales reports look like, etc. So ask a friend if you know a friend who owns a small business like a dry cleaner, or if they have a pet grooming service, what CPAs they use. Go to your local chamber of commerce. Do a search on Angie's List. Angie's List costs like $9 a month or something, but at least these people are pre-screened. People have heard of Score.org. It's some business assistance center that's in many cities. Go to Score.org and do a search to see if somebody there can help point you in the right direction. Definitely, I don't think you need to go to a big CPA firm, like a 50-person and up firm. I think my CPA, for instance, works out of her home. She's independent. She's very good. She came referred to me by a friend of mine who has a very small business, but it's worked out very well. So plan on them charging you between $15 and $75 an hour, and the cost of not getting a CPA, the pitfalls are much worse than the fee that you're going to be paying. So if you're balking at $15 to $75 an hour, you may grow big enough where you get audited someday, and you don't have anybody to help clean up the mess, and you're going to be on your own. Or, my CPA contacts me and says, "Hey, Jordan, there's a new state filing requirement for such and such. I need you to sign this paperwork that I'm FedExing you. You need to send it, sign it and send it to the state," or whatever. There's quarterly sales tax, there's payroll tax, there's things like that I don't have the time to keep up with. And frankly, I don't have the knowledge. I was never a big accounting person, and I did fairly poorly in high school and college in the accounting classes. I don't have that skill set. So yes, get a CPA. Let's talk about sales tax. There's a lot of confusion over charging sales tax, setting up your Amazon FBA account to charge sales tax. So what I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, because I still actually need to meet with my accountant to go over things. But the major concern is that when you ship your items out from your house to Amazon FBA, it typically goes to one of many warehouses: Indiana, Delaware, California, wherever. And Congress is either passing legislation or something that's going to make it much more enforceable by the states where each Amazon fulfillment center is, to collect sales tax directly from the third-party merchants. So, for example, I'm in New York. Now, let's just take Indiana, for example. Some of my inventory that gets sent to Amazon FBA's warehouses goes to their Indiana warehouse. I am subject by law to pay what's called a nexus tax, because I have a presence, just like any other FBA seller who has items going to Indiana. I now have a presence in Indiana. So I have to, by the book, I have to register to pay sales tax in Indiana for the sales that are made to a resident who is in Indiana. It's a little more complicated than that, but I have mixed feelings on this. Many Amazon sellers are doing the quote-unquote right thing by registering for the nexus existence in their respective states where there are Amazon warehouses. There's currently 10 of them. But there's a lot of confusion. Is this going to be enforced, etc.? And that's where I have some mixed feelings personally on it. I'm not going to share here. But if you are serious about selling on Amazon, if you do any sales at all, doesn't matter the volume of sales, could be 600 a year, could be 60,000, could be 600,000 a year, highly recommend you get a CPA. And I also highly recommend, in addition to that, you follow these steps here regarding collecting sales tax. One, here's a free podcast that covers this topic exactly by Kat Simpson. She did a podcast with the folks at thriftprofit.com. And here's a direct link to that podcast. It really starts at the 18-minute, 30-second mark. Outright.com is a pseudo kind of semi-accounting solution for online merchants. They're apparently, from what I've seen, I used to not recommend Outright, but they're doing a lot of legwork in terms of making this sales tax obligation much clearer for Amazon and eBay merchants. So here's the short link to that. Now, all these links are beneath the video on the YouTube page if you can't see these clearly. This is the link for their page that discusses the Nexus sales tax, and they also have a link to the 10 locations where Amazon has warehouses, because if your products are ending up in any of these warehouses, you are by law obligated to pay the Nexus sales tax. Here's a book that's by the same person who's on the podcast, Kat Simpson. The link is here. It's e-comsalestax.com. You can also sign up for their free newsletter there. I think Kat Simpson is kind of leading the charge on this topic, and she's got the best expertise at hand. Also, read this about how sales tax is charged from a buyer's perspective. This is a page on Amazon. Print this and give it to your CPA as well. Also, read this about how Amazon provides sales tax collection for sellers like you and me. Print it, read it, and give it to your CPA. And also, this outright page on FBA and sales tax, print it, read it, and give it to your CPA, this one that I mentioned earlier. This is very complicated, but the last thing that I want to see happen to anybody is that the states that are looking, the states that have Amazon warehouses are going to be aggressive about looking for extra revenue because their coffers are empty, and they may be very aggressive in going after third-party merchants like you and me and saying, how come you never paid any sales tax? Because these 30 items over the course of 3 years that were shipped to Indiana residents or whatever, they weren't charged sales tax, or you didn't remit sales tax, etc. So the worst case scenario, which I don't think is going to happen, but I say don't risk it, and I'm not a CPA. You really need to have a conversation with your CPA. But the worst case scenario that I don't see happening, unless you're a very big seller who's doing hundreds of thousands of dollars on Amazon each year, is that they start going after everybody. I don't see how a state would have the manpower to do that, but if they start going after everybody saying, hey, you owe us sales tax, you're going to be subject to fines, etc. And you don't want that to happen. So definitely do that, and replay this little segment on sales tax if you have to make sure you got all the information I have there, and also definitely sit with a CPA and see how to structure your business. Now, I just mentioned how to structure your business. Let me tell you a mistake I made. I didn't contact a CPA when I first started selling on Amazon. I said I'm just going to do it myself, and I read an ebook somewhere that says, hey, you structure your business as an LLC. I'm not saying that's a mistake. It's going to vary. When you incorporate, you can choose an S Corp or a sole proprietorship or LLC. I can't advise you on that because for instance, I took the wrong one. I'm in New York State and I picked an LLC, and my accountant came to my CPA when I told her, said we need to dissolve the LLC and reestablish you as an S corporation, which gets very messy. She told me the reasons. Your decision on what type of corporation you're going to establish as yourself, and yes, I recommend that you do establish yourself as a corporation, being an Amazon merchant. You should have a corporation that kind of absolves you personally from too much risk. But in any case, it's really going to vary. The type of corporation that you pick is going to vary based on some of your personal preferences about the risk that you're going to take, based on whether or not you're a homeowner, based on the state that you're in. It's going to be based on a number of different factors. Your CPA is going to be the best person to advise you. So people come to me and say, should I be an LLC Corp? Should I be an S Corp, etc.? Don't ask me. Ask your CPA, because they're going to be, the CPA that's in your state is going to be able to give you the best information. And in that same vein, Julie asks, should you have a separate tax ID number? Yes, I think that you should get a separate tax ID number. You can apply for one yourself. You can go online, do a search for, I guess it would be IRS Employer Identification Number, EIN. But again, before you do that, before you apply, I recommend you speak with a CPA that's local to you, that's in your same state. Having a separate tax ID number keeps you from, giving your social security number to Amazon, for instance, or it lets you shield yourself from some risk personally by having a separate tax ID number for your business alone. So yes, you should do it. Next question that Julie says, should you purchase liability insurance for selling on Amazon and eBay? My recommendation is yes. I have liability insurance for my business. If this is a long shot, but if you ship a toy with batteries in it, and it arrives to the customer and it blows up, and the person who opened the package burns his hand, I know that's not going to happen, but chances are it's not going to happen. They're probably the first inclination is to go after Amazon, but what about if they go after you too? You could be depleted of some personal funds for fighting a liability case like that. Something more simple is you hire a person to help you sort your toys that you ship to the Amazon FBA warehouse. And even though they're a friend that lives down the street, they trip on their sidewalk on the way in to help you with your shipping, and they decide to sue you. Your CPA comes over to go over the numbers with you, and a gutter falls on her head, and she ends up in the hospital. She could essentially sue you. So don't take anybody's word when they say, I would never sue you. I think, yes, it is a good idea. It's relatively affordable. Certainly consider purchasing liability insurance. Mine is provided by Allstate. Probably more pricey, but one of the more trusted companies because they're nationwide or international now, or just in the U.S., I forget. That's a great question, Julie. Now I'm going to shift gears again, and a lot of people asked about how to do things operationally, how to optimize my business operations, or how to make the business grow, etc. So Deidre, who's been a long-time follower, thank you, Deidre, for writing. She says, how do you stay organized and focused and efficient when running multiple online businesses? How do you create a workable business plan to get you from an employee to fully self-employed? I'm growing my FBA sales and selling on eBay, yada, yada. She's very busy because she works full-time, but she wants to get into a full self-employment swing. Deidre, it happened to me. I know it was destined to happen, but I knew it was going to happen. Is I eventually got fired from my full-time job working at an ad agency in New York City, the #1 ad agency in the world, in like 2009, February of 2009. I think it'll be 3 or 4 years. But I'd always been doing eBay and Amazon part-time on the side. So is it possible? Yes. Can you really have a full-time sized income only working at part-time? Yeah, but you're going to be really busy. So yeah, if you have your full-time job and then you're selling on Amazon part-time, and you want to make your part-time position in Amazon bloom and really become a successful seller, yet you're going to have to work weekends and nights to make it happen. It's not a dead end, because you're going to find that the money that you're making from Amazon is going to eventually outweigh what you're making in a full-time job. So my suggestion to you is just do one thing at a time. I think you said something in there about you want to do promoting, do blogging, etc. All the online stuff that I did that was helping other sellers really didn't come until after I was fired, and I started selling more and more. First, I started selling more and more products on Amazon and building my revenue that way. And when I got to a pace of getting revenue in, I was doing mostly books and CDs and DVDs just 2-3 years ago, used and new. I was getting enough revenue in where I could kind of rest on my laurels every now and then and start writing about what I was doing. And that's how my honestonlineselling.com blog started, and FBA Finds started, etc. And I did that while supporting a household of myself, my wife, two dogs, etc. So it can be done, but my suggestion to you is just go whole hog on getting inventory. Reach back, stay very narrow, and find out what works best for you in finding inventory, and get your inventory stream flowing. So you're constantly preparing items and sending them into Amazon FBA warehouses. because you'll eventually find that you'll be sending so much stuff in that you'll be able to see days where you don't have to do much, but the deposits are still being made into your Amazon account, into your bank account from Amazon. So that's my suggestion: is before you start going too broad, that takes time. You got to build an audience, et cetera, and provide them some free information and really help other sellers. That comes later. My suggestion to you is to do whatever you have to do during the nights and weekends to get as much inventory as you can, and do that year round, 365 days a year. Unless, of course, everybody needs a break, take a vacation, or take a weekend off every now and then. But certainly do that. Certainly consider hiring somebody under the table, $9 an hour, whatever, $5 an hour to help you prep your stuff for prep your items for FBA. Over the Christmas season, we had hired a neighbor, and paid her a flat rate per game cleaned, per toy cleaned, etc. Think about recruiting relatives to help you. My wife she didn't do this for money when she first started helping me, and now she's on payroll. But she would help me, of course, with every little step of sourcing, picking, cleaning, etc. The inventory. I don't use any fancy tools to keep organized right now, although I have heard good things about Evernote, if you want to try the Evernote app on your Android phone or iPhone. But I just keep a list of stuff that I make a fresh list every few days and refresh it and write down stuff. On one side I have business-oriented stuff I have to get done first, and then I have on the flip side the personal stuff I have to get done. Nothing earth-shattering, but get as much inventory as you can into Amazon, all different products, toys, CDs, DVDs, games, used, all of the above, new, all of the above, small electrics, appliances, and learn to source from other places you haven't touched yet. If you've been doing all your sourcing of products at big box retailer clearance aisles, consider Craigslist. If you've already done Craigslist and it's not working, try library sales. If the library sales have too much competition, many libraries have a used sales rack, or a little mini store inside their library that many people don't know about. Consider placing Craigslist wanted ads when you see a product that works really well, that you've made good money on. There's probably more of it somewhere. Place Craigslist wanted ads. Do what you can to get the stuff to come to you. Good question, Deidre. Thank you. Good luck. Shelby says, paying health insurance while making an honest living buying and selling on eBay and Amazon. Who is your carrier? How much do you pay a month for health insurance? Has Obamacare created any concerns for you? Shelby, great question. Yes, Obamacare has raised concerns for me. My health insurance currently is provided by Embrace. This is going to vary where you are in the country. Not Embrace. That's pet insurance. Emblem, EMBLEM, which used to be kind of like a New York-based insurance company, but I'm pretty sure they're nationwide now. Emblem Health. I get my insurance through a local broker. It's a local New York State based business group that's able to obtain group rates because they charge a membership fee. Join the New York State business group. You have to be a corporation, a one person or small corporation in the state of New York, to be part of the organization and to be eligible for the health insurance. I pay $1,300 a month to cover myself and my wife. I think family insurance, say if we had a child or two, I think that goes up to like $1,500, $1,600. This is going to vary widely where you are. How you might be eligible based on your income for an even more subsidized rate. I certainly do recommend you go through a broker that's geared towards business owners if you are a business. If you are not a business, get incorporated first. Talk with your accountant, get incorporated as an S-Corp or an LLC or whatever, then approach brokers that have, through your Chamber of Commerce, you could probably find a broker that manages healthcare programs for small businesses. Obamacare has created concerns for me, yes. It's the reason why I didn't vote for him, although I don't like to air my political views. But my wife has been in and out of the hospital with non-terminal things. These are not life-threatening things, but she's definitely been in and out of the hospital several times. And I'm actually willing to pay more than what I'm paying now, because we live in a country where the healthcare that's provided, I think, is generally excellent. I'm not sure if it's the best in the world anymore, but it's definitely near the top of the best in the world. Certainly, where I live in New York, I live right near New York City, where some of the best medical training is. And I'm not against paying more for health insurance just because I have some fundamental beliefs that we get, for a $50 copay, I'm getting some of the best care that can actually be provided. Um, so I don't have really much more input on Obamacare to say that, yeah, the short term it's probably going to be very scary, that our insurance premiums are going to be ungodly high, and I'm kind of mentally prepared to see that. I hope it never happens. Jonas writes, "Hello, Jordan. Here's my question: how do you safely package board games for shipping?" Jonas, great question. You're going to get a different answer based on which seller you talk to. I take my board games, I make sure they're cleaned, I organize the parts, I put them in little baggies, the parts inside the game, little baggies. I try to make sure it has instructions. If it doesn't have instructions, I try to find the instructions for free on the internet, print up a copy, and I essentially take that used board game and I will take two rubber bands to keep the lid shut. And then I put the FBA sticker over the UPC code, and then I box it. And I don't use anything fancy beyond that. You should be concerned about when you're using a box, when you're putting stuff in, to make sure that you've kind of got it's a box with some good structural integrity to it, meaning it's not a flimsy box. And then Lowe's and Home Depot sells these big rolls of brown craft paper. They're in the painting aisle. There's a long roll of brown paper that's meant for it's like a painter's roll. It's meant for you to lay, if you're a painter, it's meant for you to lay out to stand on, and so paint drips or whatever. It's just a heavy brown paper. I'll buy a roll of that brown paper and crumple it to use it for cushioning. So I'll crumple it, loosely crumple it in some big wads to cushion around the games that are in the box, etc., to try to prevent some damage. And that's it, really. That's really all I do. Some sellers shrink wrap stuff. Their games. Some sellers will bubble wrap it and put the sticker over it. I haven't done that. I haven't done shrink wrapping. Some don't even do shrink wrap. They just get clear cellophane and wrap the game neatly, kind of like they're wrapping a gift. I haven't done any of that. I've sold thousands of games at this point, and the most that I really do is make sure they're clean and 100% complete, put a couple rubber bands over it. I hope that helps you, Jonas. Stacy asks, I am wondering how to handle items that have been in FBA inventory for more than a year. Does the inventory have to be shipped back to me? No. You can elect to have it shipped back to you. I've done that before. Inventory that was sitting around that was ready to be hit with an annual long-term storage fee, I had destroyed. Amazon will destroy it for you, meaning they'll just throw it out for a small fee, and I forget what it is, but it's really negligible. And then I had some stuff shipped back to me, but if the item has been sitting there for a year and I've dropped the price and it's still not sold, I'm not going to waste any time with it. There's no reason for me to have it shipped back here and then try to figure out, well, can I sell this on eBay? Can I sell it at a yard sale for 25 cents? I'll typically have it destroyed. But before you do that, before you have anything destroyed, make sure you're checking your inventory every 3 to 6 months and drop the price accordingly to see if you can just, sometimes let's say, 10%, drop it by 10% every week after, 3 months or 6 months of it not selling. Say 6 months go by, your item hasn't sold, start dropping the price by 10% and do 10% every week until it's sold. So that's my suggestion to you, Stacy. I hope that helps you. Everybody's going to have a different strategy for this. That's just my suggestion. Chris Williams writes, in my spare time, he's able to source 30 or so products a week to send into FBA. And he wants to know, how does he scale his business up? Okay, so I've always told everybody, do it yourself first. Get out on the nights, get out on the weekends. Don't sit in front of the TV. You could be sourcing. So get out with your scanner if you have one. Get out and scout. Think of all the places you haven't been yet. Thrift stores, yard sales, estate sales, library sales, big box stores, mom and pop stores, clearance aisles. Always be looking for clearance stickers in whatever store you go to. The other thing is use Craigslist to place wanted ads. If you have an item that you've repeatedly sold well, used or new toy, small electric, place a Craigslist ad for it, a Craigslist wanted ad. Because there might be people in your region that have that exact toy that are willing to unload it. You don't have to tell them you're selling it on Amazon. Say that you're buying it for a niece or nephew, etc. Look at Craigslist ads. Look for items that are for sale locally, um, and just take a look at all the toys or all the games that are in Craigslist for sale, all the Cuisinart appliances. Go look up the same one on Amazon, see the price difference. A lot of people just sell stuff on Craigslist. They have no idea what they're selling, or they're going by the eBay prices, which is a mistake anyway. So they're getting the wrong information, and they're putting stuff up for $5, $10, $15, $20. Yard sales, people just want to unload stuff. They're not even thinking about Amazon. You'd be surprised what you can find locally from Craigslist. So try to get the work, try to make it work for you. Use Craigslist and the new Craigslist apps that you can download for your iPhone or Android. Make it even simpler to search for items. Um, and if you look at my presentation at bit.ly/big toys 2012, I cover some ways to automate the sending of Craigslist information to you. So if somebody listed a specific item you've been looking for, you immediately receive an email. So use technology to your advantage. Get the stuff coming to you, and when you can, any chance you can, get out and source. Clayton Hay asked the same question. He wants to ramp up his sales, but he works full time. Has a little time for sourcing. You don't have the resources to hire anyone. So Clayton, just what I mentioned before, try to get the technology working for you. Use Craigslist wanted ads. Search the Craigslist ads. My book, blesha.com, covers sourcing items on eBay to receive and then sell on Amazon for a profit. blesha.com. Mark makes custom rubber stamps, and he wants to know if he can substitute his image of a product for the one in the catalog and the other merchants are using. Okay, so Mark, if it's truly a different product visually, my suggestion is to create a new listing in the Amazon catalog. You're probably going to have to buy a UPC code. I don't think that's a bad investment. A single UPC code will cost you, say, between $5 and $10. I use barcodes.to.com. The link will be below. The benefit of getting a UPC code is you just need to buy one UPC code for whatever quantity you have. Say if you have 1,000 of the same stamp, you're just using that one barcode. So you're not really using the barcode per se. You're using the barcode number by creating the item in the Amazon catalog. The links on how to do that are also below. And my suggestion is, yes, take your own pictures, create a new listing on the Amazon marketplace. Now, you can also take the existing listing of the product and add your picture, but your picture is probably going to be on the tail end. It's not going to be the one that people first see when they look at the product. They're going to have to click through the photos, and if you have an additional photo that you've uploaded, which Amazon lets anybody do when they're looking at the product on the Amazon product page, you can just reference that in your description to say, my product is in the 6th photo or whatever. But if it's a fundamentally different product and you really want to stand out, my suggestion is, yes, make your own product listing. Second question, is it possible to find out sales figures, Mark asks, for an item in the Amazon marketplace, either by the item name or the name of the vendor? No, Amazon does not release those numbers. To my knowledge, they do not. Felicia asks, Jordan, I've heard that Amazon requires pro merchants to have commercial liability insurance. What do you advise about this? Yes, Felicia, as mentioned earlier, I do recommend that you get liability insurance. Before doing that, you establish yourself as a corporation. Felicia asks, are you a sole proprietorship or an LLC? I'm neither, Felicia. I'm an S Corp. The answer is really going to vary based on a number of factors, including the state that you live in. So I highly recommend that you talk with a CPA that's in your state before you make that decision. I made the wrong decision because I did not talk with a CPA 2 years ago, and I made a mistake, and I established myself as an LLC, which for me was not the best choice, and I had to dissolve that corporation. That was very messy. So definitely talk with a CPA before it gets into a messy experience. Then get your liability insurance, and when you get your liability insurance, make sure you use a major name carrier, Allstate, Geico, whomever. I wouldn't try to save money and go with a lesser known one. Great question, Felicia. Amanda asks how to handle it when I've shipped an item in and then Amazon starts selling it. Great question, Amanda. It has happened to a lot of us. Yeah, I suggest you wait it out. Amazon likes to be the price leader in many cases, and they're eventually going to run out of stock, but you got to be really patient. This is something that could take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, who knows. You said a couple items. I have been waiting since November. That's not a very, very long time. I would certainly wait at least 6 months. And then, after 3 months, 6 months, basically on your tolerance level, start dropping your price 10% every week until the item starts selling. It usually makes little sense to try to have the item shipped back unless it's been sitting there for 9 months and you've dropped below your cost. You've dropped the price below the actual cost where you're going to be losing money, and it's still not selling. You may want to even consider Amazon sending it back to you, which I typically don't recommend unless it's like a very expensive product or moderately expensive product. Have them ship it back to you, or in many cases, I'll have them destroy it. A lot of my inventory that sits in Amazon are games and toys and CDs and DVDs and VHS tapes that I paid $1, $2, $3 for. And if it's sitting on there for 9 months and I'm dropping the price and it's not selling, I'll have them destroy it because my out-of-pocket cost for those destroyed items is not much in the scheme of things. Great question, Amanda. Also ask, what about an item that I've had the lowest price for 2 months and no sales? The ranking's starting out good. I've dropped the price about $7 over what it would cost from the one retailer that carries it. She says I would, at this point, should be happy just to get some of her costs back. I have at least $100 tied up. Amanda, you're in a great position if you only have $100 tied up in inventory. I would continue dropping the price 10% every week, but I would wait till maybe the 4th, 5th, or 6th month that it's there, then start dropping the price 10% every week until it sells out. If it gets too low and it's been there 9 months, consider having Amazon destroy it or have it sent back to you. I lean towards Amazon destroying stuff because there's just no sense for me to have something that's not, if it's not going to sell in the Amazon marketplace, I don't think it's going to sell anywhere else profitably, and that's why I'll have them destroy it. When selling on eBay, is it better to have a P.O. box to keep your personal address private? Yes, there is an occasional weirdo out there that will try to hunt you down if they get angry. That's never happened to me. My home address is all over my stuff, but I also live in a thickly populated neighborhood where the houses are very close together. I don't think anybody's going to try anything dumb here. But yes, certainly consider getting a P.O. box. It's definitely worth it if you value your privacy. The buy and hold question, she's asked for seasonal inventory. I think I answered that before. Yes. It's funny you mentioned Legos because I've been seeing less of that. I've been seeing less of Legos that become valuable. But I haven't experimented with it all that much. But about 2 years ago, I bought up a bunch of Legos that were brand new at the time, the DC Superheroes versions, 5 or 6 different varieties of that. And I've held on to them for about a year and a half, 2 years now. It's starting to drive my wife crazy, saying, "When are we getting rid of these?" Because I have them stored here locally, in my in a room here. Maybe, I don't know, 50 sets of Legos or something. Most of them are the small Lego sets, and I would figure that Lego stops manufacturing these certain model numbers, and then these things are going to become rare, but they're not. There's Lego is still manufacturing the same exact model number, and I haven't done Legos for that long. I don't know if that's typical. I don't know if Lego has ramped up their operations where they say, hey, let's just keep churning this particular model number out, because they have changed their operations where they can do that affordably. Probably because the Lego craze is at an all-time high. So I don't know, but I am a fan of buying and holding merchandise for 1, 2, 3, 4 years if you have to, in many cases. There's other more palatable versions of buying and holding merchandise, like buying and holding Christmas clearance stuff till the next year. So I don't know if I told folks earlier, I went to a local place called Hicks Florist, which is a very fancy schmancy florist place. All the Department 56 items that were left over were on sale for 70% off. 70% off retail. I'll probably get full retail next year. So I bought maybe $300 of the sale price worth, and it'll probably sell for, a total of, I don't know, a grand, $1,500, etc. So yes, I am a big proponent of buying and holding. I'm not going to mention the person's name, but a very well-known seller posted a picture right before Christmas. He was standing in front of boxes over his head of Disney products that he had ordered from Disney online during their clearance sales. And somebody said, "How did you get your hands on so much, and why are you only sending it now?" He said, "Well, I've basically been accumulating this over the past year." It must have been about 100 boxes of Disney merchandise. He said, I've been accumulating this over the year, and the other sellers have been fighting it out over price. Now they're almost depleted, and I'm sending everything in for Christmas. And you can bet that he's probably made a pretty penny profit on that stuff. So yes, I am a fan of holding, buying and holding. If you have the space, if you have a big garage that's not being put to use or a big attic, certainly do it. Certainly buy and hold merchandise, toys. Hold them 1, 2, 3, 4 years until they become very scarce, and then ship them to Amazon because people will pay a heavy premium for stuff that's been out of print for a few years. That's a great question, Amanda. Thank you. Jorge writes in, I believe it's Jorge. Yes, Jorge writes in and said he just got suspended from Amazon saying his order defect rate is more than 1%. It also said I can appeal this for reinstatement of my selling privileges. This is very nice of Amazon to do this for you, Jorge. If you haven't resolved this yet, I think what they're saying here is that you can appeal for reinstatement. And if they haven't given you any further directions on how to do that, my first suggestion is email them very politely through seller support. Send them a question that says, I received this. It says I may appeal for reinstatement. How do I do that? And if they say, look, we just need you to send an email explaining to us how you're going to prevent this from happening again, you may have to write an email to them saying, I'm appealing for my reinstatement. I am very sorry that my items had a defective rate that exceeded the limits. I am doing these things to improve my order defect rate. I'm being more selective with merchandise. I'm packaging things more carefully. I'm making more careful listings, etc. So first, don't be afraid to ask the Amazon seller support what the steps are, and always be super polite in your correspondence with them because that will go a long way with them. They do value that. And I think it's very nice that they've asked you. I think that actually happened to me once. I had inadvertently mentioned the word eBay in a description instead of Amazon. So I said something like top seller on eBay by mistake. They didn't suspend my account, but they did make a point of asking me, you may not try to redirect people to a different website like eBay. Please tell us how you plan on not doing this in the future. And I had to respond to them and give them an explanation. I'm very sorry. I inadvertently did this. I will not do this in the future, etc. So I think it's very nice that they are giving you the opportunity to reinstate your account. In the worst case scenario where people are actually suspended from Amazon, I have actually heard that not all cases, but in some cases, sending an email to Jeff Bezos at Amazon, which I think is his email, and I'm sure he doesn't personally get this. His email is jeff@amazon.com, I believe. Jeff Bezos is, of course, the president and CEO of Amazon.com. And I've heard that people have gotten suspended, have sent a very carefully written letter that's, apologetic letter, and they've gotten their account reinstated. So that's pretty interesting stuff. Hasn't happened to me personally, but I have seen it in a few scenarios where it has worked. Great question, Jorge. Joe says, can I use my Inkjet printer to print FBA labels for books? Yes, you can. I use an Inkjet printer, Joe. It's an old beat-up Canon MP something, and it works just fine. What size labels do I use? I can tell you right now that I use a sheet of Avery 8160 to print up labels with my Inkjet printer. It's Avery 8160. But I think there's some settings that you're going to have to do in Amazon when you actually go to print up your labels. You're going to want to make sure that you're using the correct template. So yeah, I do use sheets of labels that I purchased from purchased them from Amazon. A box of labels, Avery 8160. How do you estimate the average cost to ship a book to FBA? A single book? Boy, that's a hard one. You obviously should be shipping your books in bulk to Amazon FBA warehouses. I've sent boxes of books, like 50 books, that have cost me maybe $10 to $15 to ship to the Amazon warehouse. That's going to vary, but I think to guess, you're going to be spending between 10 cents. Your average cost per book is probably going to be anywhere from 10 cents to like $2. That's just a very rough spectrum of what you're going to be paying for shipping costs in bulk when you're shipping all your books to Amazon FBA warehouse. Joe says, often when I look up a book on Amazon using its ISBN number, the total pages are different from my book, and Amazon shows the date published, but my book only shows the copyright date, which is different. If you have the same ISBN number of the book that you're selling on Amazon, um, my suggestion is you're clear as long as you put in your product description those differences. You may want to mention those in case there's like a book collector. If this is just your normal average mass market book, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you're selling a book that may be highly collectible or very expensive, you want to put in your item description the differences between yours and the one that's listed on the Amazon product page. Great question, Joe. Thanks for writing. Maureen asks a great question. Hi, Maureen. She says, are you selling on any other markets besides eBay and Amazon? Do you have any experience with Sears.com or Buy.com? Great question, Maureen. I do not have any experience with Sears.com or Buy.com. The reality is that in my experience, Amazon and eBay's traffic of eyeballs is far, far exponentially higher than Sears.com or Buy.com. So there, to me, there's no sense in offering something on Amazon and or eBay and then also going to Sears.com or Buy.com, because the person that's on Buy.com or Sears.com is eventually going to get to Amazon.com to look for the product or eBay. And I think most professional sellers will probably tell you the same thing. Maybe it's a different game if you're doing a ton of, like, you're doing a 500,000 or $1 million in sales, and you're doing a lot of volume of singular products, the singular SKU. Then there may be some financial incentive to move to Sears or Buy.com because maybe their commission rates are lower. But I can't see that for sellers like you or me. There's two exceptions. Craigslist I do use locally for really big bulky items. For instance, something as simple as a dresser that my wife doesn't want anymore, or we picked up one of those ride-on ATVs for kids, the little battery-operated ones. It was too big for me to ship to Amazon, so we'll sell that on Craigslist. Another exception that I haven't used myself, but I've heard, Etsy, ETSY.com, is good for people that make a lot of handmade products, jewelry, crafts, etc., that may not serve themselves well in the eBay or Amazon marketplace. I've heard of sellers doing exceptionally well with Etsy, but only if you've kind of got those crafty items. So that's a great question, Maureen, and I think if Amazon and eBay is going to cover 99.9% of your needs. Here's some great questions from another seller. It seems like the fees that Amazon charges are very high. I see it at 50%. They're taking a lot of items, and so many have complained to the point that it's gotten national press. February is coming, and they're talking about an increase in fees because of gas, etc. What say you? A great question. Not sure where you get 50%. I can understand maybe 33%. If any of you go to google.com, do a Google search for Amazon FBA calculator. There's an official calculator that's provided by Amazon that lets you calculate the costs involved, the fees involved for whatever you're selling on Amazon. And I see most fees turn out to be somewhere between 25 and 30, maybe 35%. Definitely not 50%. That's after you add up everything. Their pick and pack fee, shipping to Amazon, etc. So 33%, let's just say the number's 35% maximum, okay, or 40%. To me, it's not a lot. Of course, you could argue that Amazon is gouging for fees. I don't think that's the case. I think they're making their fees what the market will bear. Many sellers will say, this is terrible, I quit, I'm going to go build my own website and sell the products myself. You will not get nearly a fraction of the volume that Amazon gets, billions of visitors or whatever it is per day. And that's what you're paying for in my mind, is that I'm paying 25, 30, 35% of the sale because I'm getting that traffic of eyeballs seeing my products and entertain the thought of buying my product that I can't get anywhere else. It would cost you a lot of money to be able to put up a website, and that's if you're lucky, to put up a website, joesgarage.com or whatever, and hope that people buy from you directly. And setting up an e-commerce website and the shopping cart and all that, it's just not worth it. And I think the national press that they're getting about their fees is just a lot of media hype. I mean, the media likes to pick on Amazon because now they're the big elephant in the room. And this person also says, if you were starting your biz today, would you choose Amazon or eBay first? I would certainly choose Amazon. It's quicker to list. And you can, virtually anything with a barcode will sell on Amazon. I still sell on eBay for stuff that I can't sell on Amazon. So I'm not approved to sell apparel. It's very hard to get approved to sell apparel. So I've sold vintage sweaters, like a Chanel sweater I sold recently for like $300 or something. And I've been dabbling in liquidation. I bought some O'Neill ski and surf wetsuits because I'm not authorized to sell. That would probably qualify under sporting goods anyway, but because I'm not authorized in apparel, I'm selling that on eBay, and also some one-off broken stuff that's incomplete. You can't sell an incomplete toy on Amazon, but you can on eBay. Hope that helps you. That said, you should be consistently selling product on both accounts. I've heard rarely a case of an Amazon seller being suspended. And if that happens to you, whether the reason is valid or not, and you can't get your account reinstated, you're in a lot of trouble because you have nowhere else to sell your goods. And in that case, you want to have an eBay account that you've already started selling stuff in to establish a presence on eBay and establish customer feedback. In the event that you do get suspended from Amazon, it's rare, but it's happened to some innocent folks, and you can't get it reinstated. You at least want to be able to continue selling on eBay. So certainly don't pick one over the other. Make sure that you're actively selling in both. Even if eBay, say if you're doing 99% of your business on Amazon, make sure you're throwing something on eBay every now and then, just to build up a history with them, so eBay knows that you're legit and that you're a valid seller. So that's it for this podcast. I want to thank everybody for watching. And remember that a lot of the links that I referred to within this podcast are below on the YouTube page where this video is. You may have to click on the link that says show more or show more comments, and you'll see the text below the video has the time markers for everything and the links of the websites mentioned. Good luck. Any questions, feel free to email me. If you have any questions that you don't think were covered thoroughly enough in the podcast, you can contact me at jordanmalik@gmail.com. Thank you. Have a great winter and make a lot of money. Talk to you soon.